The exchange of messages between Trump and the Prime Minister of Norway, what is really at stake? Well, an exchange of messages between two world leaders has just revealed something that many would have preferred to keep behind the scenes of international diplomacy. President Donald Trump delivered a response to the Prime Minister of Norway in a way that is currently generating significant headlines and discussions all around the world. And what he said is, to say the very least, unexpected and fascinating. Trump basically put on the table a deep-seated frustration he has probably carried for many years: the ongoing issue of the Nobel Peace Prize. He claimed to have successfully ended 8 wars, and even so, has never once received the formal recognition that, in his view, he truly deserved. But his response goes far beyond a simple personal complaint. He highlights several critical strategic considerations about Greenland, about NATO, and about the vital role of the United States in maintaining international global security. And that's exactly what is worth analyzing much more carefully. First, let's understand the context. The Prime Minister of Norway formally delivered a message on his own behalf and on behalf of the Finnish president, requesting to discuss the situations in Greenland, Gaza, and Ukraine, as well as the trade tariffs recently announced by the United States. The overall tone of the message was conciliatory, almost cautious, suggesting that everyone involved should work diligently to reduce tensions. This is a typical approach of traditional European diplomatic strategies, which often prefers the path of dialogue, gentleness, and accommodation, the classic let's work things out attitude. Donald Trump, however, responded in a completely different and contrasting way. He was direct, incisive, and remarkably blunt. What immediately stands out as particularly significant is the explicit mention of the Nobel Peace Prize. At first glance, it may seem like an out-of-place complaint, but when you examine it more closely, you begin to understand that there is a far more profound and layered critique being presented there. Trump is questioning the credibility of these international institutions, which historically seem to reward rhetoric more than concrete results. How many times have leaders been recognized for beautiful speeches, for grand promises, while those who actually took practical actions were overlooked or even subjected to criticism? This is not something uniquely limited to Trump. It's a growing perception among a significant number of individuals who observe global politics, and frequently observe a disconnect between what is celebrated and what actually works. The issue of Greenland is particularly interesting. Trump brings up a significant point that seldom appears in mainstream political debates. Why exactly does Denmark possess property rights over that particular territory? He specifically mentions that there are no clear or formal written documents, only the fact that a Danish ship arrived there many hundreds of years ago. And he further adds that American ships were also present in those waters. Now, regardless of whether we agree or not with the idea of the United States acquiring Greenland, the argument raised is well worth our careful consideration. Many borders in South America and territorial possessions in today's modern world were defined by historical circumstances that, when analyzed from a contemporary perspective, often seem quite arbitrary. Trump is essentially challenging a narrative that many people take as completely unquestionable. And this deeply unsettles those who prefer to keep the status quo completely intact. Another crucial element of the response is the mention of Denmark's inability to protect Greenland against powers like Russia and China. This is not an empty provocation. It's a geopolitical observation and a deeply pragmatic one. Greenland holds an incredibly vital and strategic geographical position in the Arctic, a region that is rapidly becoming a zone of increasingly intense international competition as new trade routes and natural resources emerge. Natural resources are becoming more accessible. Denmark, with all due respect, does not have the military capability to guarantee the security of that territory in the face of serious threats. In practice, it is the United States that guarantees this security through military bases and defense agreements. Trump is simply verbalizing something that defense experts have known for decades. Then comes the part about NATO. Trump claims to have done more for the alliance than anyone else since its founding, more for the alliance than anyone else since its foundation. Can this claim be debated? Certainly, it is worth noting that there is a significant and undeniable kernel of underlying truth that many critics consistently choose to ignore. For many years, several NATO member countries consistently failed to meet their agreed-upon defense investment targets. The United States bore a disproportionate share of the alliance's financial and military burden. President Donald Trump was the leader who openly applied pressure for this to change. And in fact, several countries increased their defense spending in direct response to that pressure. Whether you like the style or not, the results were there. The final concluding sentence of the message is absolutely especially significant. The world will not be safe unless we have total and complete control of the territory of Greenland. Does that sound dramatic? That may be true, but consider the current global scenario. China is actively extending its strategic influence on every continent. Russia consistently and repeatedly demonstrates that it is willing to use military force to achieve its strategic objectives. The Arctic region is rapidly becoming a major new theater of competition among the great global powers. In this specific context, American concern with Greenland is not paranoia, it is essential long-term strategic planning. The United States is thinking in terms of many decades, not simply short-term election cycles. What many media outlets will probably highlight is the tone of the message. Will they say it was arrogant? That it was inappropriate, that this is not how diplomacy is done, but this criticism reveals more about those making it than about Trump. A widespread expectation currently exists, most notably among European political elites, that diplomacy should always follow a predictable, smooth, almost ritualistic script. Trump breaks this pattern. He communicates and speaks like a business negotiator, not like a career diplomat. And that deeply unsettles and disturbs a lot of people. However, it's worth asking, has the traditional model of European diplomacy really consistently worked all that effectively in practice? Have conflicts around the world decreased? Is Europe becoming a safer place? Are we truly becoming more prosperous? The actual answers to this question are not nearly as positive or encouraging as some would like to admit. I'd like to know your opinion about this in the comments. If you enjoyed watching this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and share the video with others. Thank you so much for your support, and we will see you next time.